Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In this video, we're going to be discussing none other than famed magizoologist Newt Scamander in the form of his Patronus animal. Newt is of course the author of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, a very popular book in the magical world outlining all sorts of magical creatures. It's essentially an encyclopaedia of magical creatures, and lists everything that you need to know about these beasts. Newt gathered his information over years of scouring the globe, and once described his profession as follows. I have visited lairs, burrows, and nests across 5 continents, observed the curious habits of magical beasts in 100 countries, witnessed their powers, gained their trust, and, on occasion, beaten them off with my traveling kettle. Newt's book was so well received by the wizarding population that it was even made an integral part of the Hogwarts curriculum by Headmaster Albus Dumbledore. Newt's masterpiece had been an approved textbook at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry ever since its publication, and must take a substantial amount of credit for our students' consistently high results in care of magical creatures examinations. We're first introduced to Newt Scamander in the new Fantastic Beasts films, where he's one of the main characters. He's a calm, mild-mannered man with an astounding amount of patience and an incredible attitude toward dealing with animals. He's highly nurturing, very quirky, and certainly awkward, but he has a certain charm about him. He's often barely able to make eye contact with other people and is sometimes painfully awkward. But his honest love for magical creatures and his empathy and desire to help others means that we can't help but like him. So, if you're anything like me, you must be wondering, what is the Patronus animal of a man who has an affinity for so many different creatures? In this video, we're going to be theorizing on what exactly Newt's Patronus animal is, and I think that he's a particularly interesting subject to analyze in this regard because of his relationship with creatures. A Patronus is of course the result of a witch or wizard casting the Patronus charm. There are 2 types of Patronus charms, corporeal and incorporeal. The more basic form of the spell is the incorporeal Patronus, which assumes no animal form and simply resembles a burst of white vapor or smoke, and the more advanced form of the spell is the conjuring of a corporeal Patronus. The ability to successfully cast a corporeal Patronus is considered an impressive feat in the wizarding community. The corporeal Patronus assumes the form of the witch or wizard's spirit animal, and varies extensively from witch to witch or wizard to wizard. While casting spells that create your very own spirit animal is probably fun, there is a purpose, and that purpose is to ward off dementors or letherfolds, dark creatures that feed on human happiness and incite a feeling of despair in anyone that gets close to them. They are among the foulest creatures around and represent nothing but darkness, depression, and decay. The Patronus charm is the only known way of dealing with a dementor, and so it's a gravely important thing for a witch or wizard to know. The Patronus represents everything that a dementor doesn't: hope, happiness, survival, and purity. As the Patronus itself does not feel despair or hopelessness as a human might, the dementors can't hurt it and are repelled by its presence. It's also worth noting that each witch or wizard that's actually able to produce a corporeal Patronus will produce an animal that is uniquely tied to them. When initially casting the corporeal Patronus, the witch or wizard will have no idea what animal they're conjuring until they've done it for the first time. There is no explanation for how a certain Patronus animal is tied to a witch or wizard. However, it has been heavily speculated that the shape of the Patronus produced is significantly influenced by the personality of the caster. And so when we see characters with the same Patronus, Harry and his father, Snape and Lily Potter, we can infer that they had similar personality types or a bond of some sort. It's also worth noting that the corporeal Patronus of a wizard can actually change according to life events. A witch or wizard's Patronus animal is a massively personal thing and is often recognized as an extension of their identity. In many cases, you will even know who is trying to contact you through their Patronus alone, which can actually be used like a messenger. There are almost no limits on what a Patronus can be, and this is well documented by Professor Kettle Spangle, who also had this to say on Patronuses. The Patronus, asserted Spangle, represents that which is hidden, unknown, but not necessary within the personality. Here, says Spangle, is the explanation for the appearance of Patronuses in forms that their casters might not expect, for which they have never felt a particular affinity, or in rare cases, even recognize. It is usual, but not inevitable, for a Patronus to take the form of an animal commonly found in the caster's native country. Given their long affinity with humans, it is perhaps unsurprising that among the most common Patronuses although it must be remembered that any corporeal Patronus is highly unusual, are dogs, cats, and horses. Extinct Patronuses are very rare, but not unknown. Strangely, given their long connection with wizard kind, owl Patronuses are unusual. Most uncommon of all possible Patronuses are magical creatures such as dragons, thestrals, and phoenixes. While a rare and magical Patronus undoubtedly reflects an unusual personality, it does not follow that it is more powerful or will enjoy greatest success at defending its caster. A little while back, actor Eddie Redmayne, who plays Newt Scamander, actually took the Patronus test himself and had this to say: "I actually did the Patronus test twice as it launched. Both times I got the same Patronus. The people from Pottermore told me that that was incredibly rare because of the amount of algorithms it takes to choose the Patronus, so I must really be that thing." It's then revealed that Redmayne's Patronus is a basset hound with long, floppy ears. So that's Redmayne. But what about Newt? When J.K. Rowling was asked about Newt's Patronus on Twitter, all that she could say was that it would be a big spoiler. This just makes me even more curious. My first theory involves Newt's relationship with lifelong friend Leta Lestrange. Leta and Newt grew up together. They both attended Hogwarts. And though Leta ended up with Newt's brother, Theseus, they seem to have a very unusual relationship. Ever since childhood, there has been a certain tension between them. And I think that in the most recent films, this tension is apparent on screen. Newt may have found a new love interest in Tina Goldstein, but that doesn't suddenly strip away the years and years that Newt and Leta spent together. They were so close, in fact, that Newt remained in love with Leta for years after they parted ways, and even kept a framed photograph of her in his work shed. As we see with Snape and Lily in Harry Potter, love certainly plays a part in the role of one's Patronus, and that's why Snape, who shared a similar friendship with Lily in his youth, had a Patronus that matched Lily's. So, in order to figure out what Newt's Patronus is, we first need to figure out Leta's. As J.K. Rowling always seems to place a certain amount of emphasis on etymology in Harry Potter, I'm going to dissect Leta's name to see if we can figure it out from there. It has been expressed that the name Leta most likely originates from the name Leda, who was the daughter of the Aetolian king Thestius. She was an Aetolian princess who became a Spartan queen in Greek mythology. And it just so happens that the most popular fable surrounding Leda involved one particular animal, a swan. If we assume that Newt's Patronus matched Leta's out of his love for her, then I think that it's reasonable to assume that Newt's Patronus would also be a swan. What this would mean for Newt's relationship with Tina Goldstein is unclear, but as Patronuses can change, I don't think that it would be out of the question for us to witness Newt's Patronus changing, perhaps to later match Tina's. My second and more conservative theory is that Newt's Patronus is a hippogriff. Here's why. First things first, hippogriffs are very rare magical creatures, half horse and half eagle. We first see them in the Harry Potter films when Hagrid introduces us to Buckbeak. So far in Fantastic Beasts, we haven't seen them, but if we dig just a little bit into Newt's past, it's easy for us to quickly make an association. You see, Newt was born and raised in England, and his mother, whose name we don't actually know, happened to be a hippogriff breeder by profession. It was growing up with such majestic creatures surrounding him that sparked Newt's initial interest in magical creatures. Hippogriffs were part of his introduction to the world of beasts, and I think that it's reasonable to assume that the positive associations pertaining to his introduction to his lifelong passion, paired with the thoughts of his mother, would have some sort of bearing on his Patronus. And that's all I'm going to say for now. What do you guys think? What do you think Newt's Patronus is? Do either of my theories work for you? Let me know down in the comment section below. Until next time, you're a wizard, Harry.